Saints fans and Houdads from all over the world, this is Kyle T. Mosley here with some information about former former quarterback of the New Orleans Saints and current starter of the Carolina Panthers, Mr. Teddy Bridgewater. But to make heads and tails of everything, I invited Schuyler Callihan from All Panthers, a colleague with the Sports Illustrated site, to be able to make some sense of what's going on. Schuyler, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Kyle. Hope you're doing well. It's we were just talking before we hopped on here. It's about to be one of the most really interesting and crazy off seasons that I think we've ever seen in the NFL, with all the possible changes at quarterback, and that's obviously the biggest question mark for a lot of teams. So I think we're about to see a lot of moving pieces here in the next couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. So, Schuyler, I contacted you because I was scratching my head, couldn't make sense of why the Carolina Panthers, after just one season with Teddy Bridgewater, started to look elsewhere. At first, they kind of courted Matthew Stafford, and then I heard a couple other names to kind of talk off. Tell me, what's going on? Why Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer have all of a sudden decided that Teddy Bridgewater may not be the future of the team?
Yeah, I think really kind of all, goes back to, during the season, there were so many games, so many opportunities where the Panthers had either a chance to tie or win the game with the ball in their hands. And one of those games came in New Orleans. I mean, we're talking about Carolina was driving down the field. They had to kick a long 60-some yarder from Joey Sly inside the dome. Didn't quite get it. But, I mean, there was, I believe, 7 or 8 games where they lost by 1 score or less. And for team owner David Tepper, I think he had a big hand in kind of not only the Scott Fitterer hiring, obviously, as GM, but he's got a big play and a big say in what happens in terms of maybe the direction of the organization, what type of players they're going to go after. He's not going to get involved heavily in terms of which exact players they're going to go sign. But I think he saw what happened last year with Teddy Bridgewater. He was not a fan of it. That's kind of a Marty Hurney signing, and that's why Marty Hurney's no longer here. He's continuously made some bad decisions, and one thing that Tepper has really repeated over and over with the media in the last month or so is about the quarterback position. And he doesn't really say Teddy, himself, but he points to the quarterback position as, a spot where they want to get better. Marty Hurney is more of a traditional evaluator, a traditional scout. He's going to go see for his eye and believe in his gut what he thinks about a certain player. Mm-hmm. He wants more analytical type of data driven towards what they're going to go after. So that's why they got Scott Fitterer, who can use stuff like that. Matt Rule, more of a traditional guy, but can use those data points to go after the next quarterback. And they want a guy that they can trust with the ball in their hands at the end of the game. Now, I will say this, and I really tried to hold my judgment back on Teddy Bridgewater until the end of the season, because he had to go through so much. A new coaching staff, a new city, a new team, young players on both sides of the ball. He had Christian McCaffrey out 13 games. So it was just an utter mess and didn't have a really good offensive line. So there was a lot of things that I think did not play into his favor. And I think, it's a little unfair to say maybe after 1 year into this 3-year deal that he signed that it's probably too premature for him to be moving on. But, I mean, listen, if you got a chance to go and land Deshaun Watson, I think you got to do everything you can.
Look, no doubt. No doubt. And I'm on board with Mr. Watson. I get a chance to see him in Houston quite often. So let's talk a little bit about Teddy's contract, right? Because I'm reading here that if these guys trade him before June 1st, they get to save $12.9 million. Mm-hmm. If they release him before June 1st, they have to eat $20 million in dead cap and only save $2.9 million. But get this, if they trade him after June 1st, they're able to, save what, 17.9 million? And
Yeah.
that's kind of bewildering right there. And if they release him after June 1st, they only save 7.9 million. So, do you think they could be able to get a deal? Do you think there are any buyers out there for Teddy Bridgewater at the moment?
I think there's definitely going to be some teams interested if Scott Fitterer and the Panthers make it known that they're willing to field calls on him. Because I mean, you look at some teams around the league that may be drafting a young quarterback. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater could be maybe a fit with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know. I mean, I don't think that they'd be willing to take on that much money, knowing Trevor Lawrence is probably going to be ready week one. But if
Right.
you're looking at somewhere, maybe somewhere that's going to draft Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, those guys, Trey Lance, maybe those are some teams that could be interested. Maybe the Chicago Bears could be a team. I think that if they end up drafting a quarterback in the first round or get a quarterback in the draft, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater would be a great fit, I think, for Chicago because he's played in that division before with the Vikings. He knows that division well. I think it'd be a good fit for him there. I've seen Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk mention the Vikings as an option where if they deal Kirk Cousins to, say, the 49ers, that opens up a spot for them. And I mean, really, that makes perfect sense. Going back to Minnesota where he's comfortable, he knows he's well liked there. And, really at this point, Kyle, I don't know that you can really go back and say, all right, Teddy, you're going to be our guy for the next 2 years. I think there's a lot of tension, whether it's really shown or not. It's hard for me to have all these rumors about Deshaun Watson, about Matthew Stafford. Which quarterback are you going to take? Are you going to trade up to get a quarterback? And then all of that fails and then say, you know what, Teddy, we struck out, but you're our guy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of dissing Teddy a little bit. And again, I don't think he played terribly bad. I mean, again, he had a lot of things go against him, but I do think there will be teams interested. Like you said, if they make that known, I think they will. But for me, I think they have to figure this out before the drafts, which would obviously be before that June 1st date, because you want to go into that draft having a game plan of what you're going to do with those picks. You don't want to have to assume or guess. Yeah, we might be able to deal Teddy, later in the summer for a starting quarterback. You want to have an idea of what happens before you enter that draft.
Yeah. And one thing I proposed, and this is a possibility, just in case the New Orleans Saints have Drew Brees to retire, but Sean Payton got on to Good Morning Football Today as well as Will Brinson's show and talked in detail how he's kind of focused in on re-signing Jameis Winston, right? But let's say they can't re-sign Jameis Winston and Teddy Bridgewater is out there on the market. It would make sense for the Saints to be able to bring him back into the fold. He was really a positive asset in the locker room. He went 5-0 as a starter for the Saints. So you can't knock anything against Teddy and what he's been able to accomplish here. It's just shocking to me how fast he fell from grace, from being signed, like you said. But of course, when you have a change in regime, you do have a change in mentality and change in focus, right?
Absolutely. And Scott Fitterer made it known in his press conference, in his introductory press conference, that they were going to be aggressive. Now, we've seen time and time and time, GMs will say, yeah, we're going to be aggressive. But what does aggressive mean? Does it mean you're going to go and make a splash like Deshaun Watson? Or are you going to make a splash in free agency? Or are you going to trade up in the draft? Like, what does that mean? So I think you're kind of getting a good grasp of what that means with Scott Fitterer. And I think they're going to be honestly, I really think they will try their very best to get Deshaun Watson if the Texans and their new GM Nick Caserio say, okay, we'll listen to some offers. If that happens, I don't know how the Panthers pass up that opportunity, because I get I get Teddy Bridgewater is still early in his contract, but Deshaun Watson is a once in a generation type player, and you have to do everything you can to go get him, especially when you look at the window to win is going to be in the next couple of years for the Panthers. You look around the league or look around the division, the Falcons are going to be in rebuild mode. How long is Tom Brady and that crew going to be hanging down there in Tampa Bay? New Orleans, obviously, that cap situation is going to be an issue that they've got to figure out. So there's going to be a very good opportunity for the Panthers to win, not 3 years down the road, but as soon as maybe next year, 2022, definitely, and certainly by 23. So having a quarterback that's not going to come in here and take a couple of years to develop like one of those top draft picks, I think you have to try and go get a guy like Watson. And I think that's why they try with Stafford. They don't want to wait around. They see the opportunity to win now. But I mean, if all else fails, I will say this, if they decide to stick with Teddy, I think you'll end up seeing them make that decision before the draft. They'll maybe draft a younger guy and let him kind of be that bridge to the next guy. So I think, he's going to have a successful career no matter where he ends up. And I think New Orleans would be a good spot for him. Plus, it would give him an opportunity for revenge against the Panthers.
Definitely. Now, like you said, the Bears could be a likely destination. Ryan Pace, who's the GM, formerly assistant GM in the New Orleans front office, he loves to sign former Saints players, and he was courting Teddy Bridgewater before the Carolina Panthers were able to get to him. So that seems like a more likely destination for Teddy as well. Right now, Teddy is due to make $17 million in base and has a $5 million prorated bonus for you guys. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money targeted to one player. That's more than Christian McCaffrey, Shaq Thompson, as well as Kawan Shore. So how's this all going to play out, Schuyler? What's your thoughts, buddy?
I mean, it is a lot of money. And I think that's why a lot of the fans in Charlotte are really kind of upset about how things unfolded this past year. But see, the thing is, and again, you know this better than anybody, and I'm not trying to call fans out or anything because there are knowledgeable fans out there. But people just automatically think $60 million, that's a lot of money to spend on a quarterback. But not in today's age. A 3-year, $60-some million deal, that's really not a lot of money. 5 years ago, you could say that. But, I mean, look at the deal that, Patrick Mahomes just signed, the deal that Dak Prescott's trying to get.
Yeah.
I mean, this is nowhere near that type of money. Now, again, this is a small market team, so I understand. But, again, when people see $60 million, they expect big things right out of the gate. But you have to look at what surrounded it. He had Christian McCaffrey, arguably his best weapon, out for 13 games. He had a tumultuous offensive line, a very young and very thin defense. And a first-year NFL head coach, a first-year NFL offensive coordinator. I mean, how much do you think he was going to succeed? I mean, let's be honest. How many people put in that position are going to find success? So, I think you have to build the offensive line first. If you're Carolina, you focus on that. Then you address the quarterback position. But, honestly, I just don't see the Texans being willing to give up Deshaun Watson. And if they do, I don't know that the Panthers are going to be willing to fork up the price tag that's going to come along with that. So, yeah, I think Teddy Bridgewater will probably be with the Panthers in 2021. You may see them draft a quarterback at number 8. You may see them move up in the draft to get a quarterback. But I think he's going to be a part of that roster in 2021. I don't know about that third year of the contract, but definitely for year 2.
Okay, so quick question. If a quarterback is available at number 8, who is it?
Yeah, that's a tough question because, I mean, you see guys slip every year in the draft. Is Zach Wilson or Justin Fields going to slip all the way to 8? Probably not. You're probably looking at Alabama quarterback Mac Jones, who really impressed a lot of people this year and impressed the Panthers staff who he worked with at the Senior Bowl last week.
At the Senior Bowl, right.
So there's a connection there. They seem to like each other. I think there's a connection there brewing. Trey Lance has been the North Dakota State quarterback has been of topic lately. I don't know if they're as on to him as maybe Mac Jones. But to me, again, I think you got to see what happens in the first couple picks. I mean, obviously, we know what happens at number 1. But if the Jets decide to stick with Sam Darnold, then then one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to trade that number 2 pick to maybe the Panthers or maybe the Falcons, someone to move up, or they stay put and draft, Devontae Smith, Penei Sewell, somebody like that to help out Darnold. So I think you got to see what happens at number 2 first. Once you see what happens there, I think you're going to see some movement, whether it's from the Panthers, the Falcons. One of those teams is going to start moving. And I would not be surprised to see Carolina move up to maybe number 3, number 4 in the draft and try and get Justin Fields, Zach Wilson.
Okay. I know Justin Fields has the same kind of flavor as P.J. Walker and those guys, high mobility, solid performer. He was a finalist as a Heisman Trophy finalist a year ago. So he's a good candidate. All right, man. Look, Schuyler, I appreciate your time. I hope Teddy is able to not play as well, of course, against the Saints, but play very well next season if he stays with you guys, because you can't do anything at quarterback unless you fix your offensive line. That's been proven in Tampa Bay. And I think that's one caveat to Tom Brady's resurgence in his career, because they fixed the offensive line in Tampa Bay that allowed him to be able to have over 40 touchdown passes this season. All right. Kyle T. Mosley here with Schuyler Callihan. Schuyler, thank you, my friend. And we'll try to have more information on Teddy Bridgewater. And if you guys want to follow Schuyler, tell everybody how they can follow you on the World Wide Web.
Absolutely. So you can follow us on Twitter at SI_Panthers. You can follow myself at Callihan_. And then you can find us obviously on Google at www.si.com/NFL/Panthers. And we also have a Facebook page as well. So you can be able to find us on there at Facebook, but we're mainly on Twitter. So that's good for I'm glad to be able to come on here. Kyle, I appreciate your time, and obviously can't wait to see what happens this offseason in the draft, free agency. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll be talking, and you guys take care.
Yeah, we'll talk, man, especially during and before the draft as well. I want to pick your brain on some of those West Virginia candidates as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Got it, my man.
Thank you for listening to us talk about Mr. Teddy Bridgewater and his days in Carolina.